No, it's okay.
Hello, chess friends. This is International Master Valeri Lilov talking, and today we're going to be discussing some really amazing games on the Sicilian Defense for both white and black. Now, I do wish to tell you that Sicilian is one of the sharpest openings. And what is so incredible about it is that it can give you some incredible experience, no matter which color you're playing it with. However, the thing is that a lot of people do not know many of those possibilities, and this is why today I'm going to talk a lot about how one should think or analyze the different ideas, and of course make some brilliant games with them. So we're actually going to start by looking at a pretty interesting, like a couple pretty interesting games. First of all, I would love to show you uh, Fabiano Caruana's interesting game. He actually played an incredible game, I believe, that was just so lovely versus Hikaru Nakamura. There is so much to learn from this game, and you can understand a bit more about what the weaknesses of Sicilian are. So, in case you're playing against it, you could actually take advantage and exploit them. So, we're going to look at that game. And basically, Caruana was playing white. Nakamura was playing with the black pieces. And the game started off with e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, and the exchange. This is great. And okay, so actually after that, pretty much black played the move of knight x to the d4, knight f6, knight to f6. Okay, and so basically after the move of knight c3, black played a6, white played with a move of bishop to the g5. All right, so this is important. Black played e6, and white plays f4. Now this is the Chevening and Najdorf type of structure, which I quite like for both sides. It is a good opening. It obviously gives white the opportunity to, exercise some pressure both towards the center and the king side. So, but of course, black has his own actual flexibility out there. And so, for instance, after continuing with the move h6, then of course, white plays bishop to the h4, queen to the b6, and now white continues with the move of a3. Okay, so what's actually coming up in this type of position is that now, in case black plays queen takes to the b2, of course, we're ready to even challenge that queen, and this is quite good. And like after that kind of move, black played was bishop b7. So it was just a very nice development. He's setting up, getting ready to castle. Now you may be wondering, why does black not capture the pawn on b2? And there are many reasons for that. I mean, taking the pawn on b2 makes a great sense. Most importantly, you could see white trapping black's queen. Sometimes, basically, that type of queen is that type of trap is not available. Now, in this case, it is, but in other positions, it may not be. The reason why black usually does not take this poison pawn, as it's called, on the b2 is because he loses the initiative. In this case, it even costs him the queen. So after the move pawn to a3, Nakamura knew this, and he actually played bishop e7. So basically, after the move of bishop to the e7, then we realize that white is able to play with the move of bishop to the f2. So things are actually working out quite well. Now, in this case, we have that idea of playing maybe with a move of knight to the f5, and we're going to challenge the black queen. And so, for example, after continuing with bishop f2, black played queen to the c7, then white plays queen f3. So this is quite interesting. So after queen to c7, what happens in this case? Queen c7, queen f3, black plays with a move of knight bd7, and then white plays with a move alongside castles. Pawn to b5. So what do we do now? I mean, given the power that white has in the center with the move with the pawns on e4 and f4, the knight from d4 can also get a pretty strong challenge against the e6 out there, and so this is so good in this position. Now, after continuing with the move of b5, white plays the move of pawn up to the g4. So, what is going on here? First of all, you have to understand the imbalances, not just with the fact that white stands a lot stronger in the center, but first and foremost, okay, white wants to exercise. He wants to expand. He would like to play with the move of h4, rook g1, g5, g6. Now, black is obviously a lot more passive. However, he's more flexible. That means his development could eventually help him to really grow his pieces and put them on, maybe we could say, stronger or much better positions. Of course, it's going to take some time until that's done, but this is what he wants. That's what his goal is. Let's develop and eventually bring the pieces better. Now, after g4, black plays g5. Interesting move. Usually the idea of this move is to help out with, in case of the exchange, then there's going to be the h6 of the g. And so let's take a look. Then after the g5, then white plays with the move of pawn to the h4. All right. Well, after that candidate, black, of course, plays g6 f4. And so that's great. So after continuing with the move of bishop to the e2, most of the white pieces are actually well in place. But then you may say, okay, but what has he achieved? He just lost a pawn. He moved this strange h4, not being able to take the pawn right now. And so now with the bishop e2, we're actually connecting the rooks. But what do we do next? Very interesting. Now, after the move of bishop to the e2, black played pawn to b4. And in here, white took. Now, you're probably wondering, what is going to happen in case black plays bishop to b7? In case he didn't do it. And you understand now in some way why white engages with this h4. When you're white in the Sicilian and you have the center control, usually that means you have more flexibility. You have more possibilities for attack. And that gives you a chance to start it and lead the initiative. So, actually, after continuing with the move of g5, in case of h6 of the g, we can have h6 of the g, rook takes h1, and then there's even rook takes h1, which you could actually understand is going to work out pretty strongly, given the attack against the f6 and the h8. This is very, very important. So this is what we're looking to do now. If black plays with knight g8, we're probably even going to go g6 in this position. This is very, very important. And for instance, in case black plays with, in case he goes for f takes g, we could even continue with knight takes to the e in this type of position. We've got the knight d5 out there. And so that's quite valuable. That's very, very powerful. The key idea in this kind of situation, it's very important, is to remember that keeping up with the attack or helping yourself to actually engage as white as early as you possibly can, it's going to help you in the long run. We've got moves like g5, g6, and you could see now why black actually did the sacrifice. It's not that he wanted it or he loved to do it. He just knew that if he doesn't do it, things are not going to work for him. It's actually going to get very bad given the different tactics and possibilities. And so that actually, after the move of bishop to the e2, black plays b4, pawn takes to the b4, and then knight e5. White plays queen takes to f4. Black does knight takes g4. You see, and now he is already engaged into tactics. It's very interesting. We are already engaging it into tactical ideas and tactical things, knowing that he's not going to escape that far. It's like basically black is already doomed, since whatever he did was way too early, didn't come off with any real development or preparation, and it just doesn't work. Actually, it's very interesting. It doesn't really work. Now, what was actually he thinking about? Well, knight takes g4 is apparently done in order to open up more and attack. But let's see what comes off in this position is that white just takes it, and then we understand the problem. All those tactical possibilities, they just don't even matter. Because, like in this case, if white plays bishop takes to the eg4, black played with the move of pawn up to the e5, and now there was the amazing queen takes f. Everything is being sort of really going to that point where we understand the power. When you've got so much time and preparation and strength, you could allow yourselves even such a move. I mean, this is obviously very rare. It's not something that is like a role model type of move. You can't give away your queen for a knight. But because your position is so strong, because the white development was so good, he could allow himself to do this move for one very simple reason. The activity provides amazing possibilities. And that is wonderful. It's great. It's efficient. It's dangerous. And then take a look at what's actually happening. In the couple of next moves, there's going to be nothing that black can make on his own. So if the queen takes f6, black plays bishop takes f6. And in that moment, after this happened, just like this, now you understand what's actually going. Now, what is happening right here and now? Well, what's going on is big. Knight to the d5. It's perfect. It's breaking through, and now immediately inside black's position. We're having the threat against the queen and the challenge against f6, which are two very painful things for black to experience. But I want to show you what it really means to have the pressure. So a lot of people don't actually realize the importance of it. The more you keep your opponent back down, the worse it's going to keep getting for him. And so after the knight at the d5, now he's got the problem with the queen, and he's got the issue with the f6, and he's got everything else to worry about. So he actually played with queen d8, and then knight f5. This move stabilizes. Take a look at this. This move doesn't just say, all right, I've got a good position. Let's just attack with the queen down. Now, this move stabilizes the pressure. I've always said that the pressure is the highest form of attack that the player should strive for. And the reason why is because when you create pressure, that literally means one thing. You're keeping the opponent more on the backside. The more you're keeping him on the backside, actually, the worse it's going to be. And so that's a perfect idea. We have them in case he actually continues with the move of bishop takes f5. We're going to play bishop takes d5. What gives white the ability to attack without a queen? Very interesting question. What gives white the ability to attack without a queen is the reason, is the possibility to make this queen irrelevant. Now, in other words, what that basically means is that every piece has its own relative value. In one way or another, a piece is going to be valuable in terms of, like, we could say 100%, or it is going to be valuable at a 50% or 20%, really depending on the situation. Now, the reason why that actually turns out so useful for white to play this is because his pressure at that moment is making black's queen less than 20% of its actual value. So instead of having 9 points, imagine how many points it's equals to. This is really bad. It's really, really bad in that position. And you also get to understand another problem that black is having, obviously. And this problem is that he apparently cannot move anywhere else. He's awful. He's got trouble with it. When, even making this queen, you see, the major problem really comes from the fact that there's no way to make this queen do anything. It's just backsided, totally behind. The king on e8 is awful, and any of the other pieces cannot be helpful either. It is that useful. It's that relevant. Remember that. Every time when you're attacking, people think, when they're attacking, people think about, how do I checkmate him? Now, that may be interesting, but the truth is, checkmate is usually not possible. Even winning material, as a matter of fact, is often not possible. What is, however, quite possible, and you might consider it, is the opportunity to keep the pressure. Challenging the opponent and holding him is like, imagine a boxing match in which the one fighter has the ability to punch the other again and again and again. Now, in boxing, we've all seen Rocky. Now, the thing is that at a certain point, you can get tired, and then the opponent can counter. While in chess, it's quite the opposite. You're not going to get tired. You can keep punching and keep punching and keep punching him until he basically breaks. And that is what I call a strong initiative. Now, in that specific case, apparently Black was very worried about this position, so he actually decided to play with rook to the b8, I suppose, in hope to just arrange the rook and keep the pieces together. Made sense. But White plays knight takes f6, queen takes f6, and now rook takes d6. Again, the black queen is not only completely useless, but it turns out in this type of position that is got to be, it's got to work terribly. So after that move, then obviously Black has got a queen that he's got to move. He's played bishop to the e6, and all right, what happens is that White plays rook a to the rook to the d1. So, of course, after playing with that type of move, we see that Black has only one way to do it, it's a castle. And actually, after he plays short castles, that's what White wants. White was pushing Black to do this, so that once he's castled, his king is now fairly bad, just in every way. It's a horrible thing. He does not get to have anything useful. It was exactly what White wanted. Just let Black the castle, let him to just feel quite comfortable, and now he's going to be in trouble. So let's take a look. Does the castling, and then, for instance, after continuing with king to short castles, White plays h5. Yes. Well, after that move, you also get to understand that we've got the bishop h4 because the bishop can really step forward. It's a pretty amazing candidate. There's nothing, really, not a whole lot that Black can do. Not a single chance for complication or anything else. The secret, remember that, the secret is in constantly adding new forces into the attack. Because when you're able to introduce new pieces or new forces, what's actually going to happen is that you will be able to, get more, attention. And so, for instance, after that type of move, then, like actually after that continuation of h5, and Black played with queen g5 check. I played bishop to the e3. And so, for example, after that type of move, then you could find that if Black plays with the move, if queen takes g4, we have knight takes to the h6. You have to go back to f6, very importantly. And that's great. See, I need you to understand that this is not a certain kind of attack. Sometimes you're going to see a sacrifice that works. Oh, like, look at this. This is so beautiful. Let's do it. Now, indeed, sometimes this attack could work brilliantly. But every time when you sacrifice, there's a risk. Now, most chess players actually say, okay, Valeri, there's a risk. That's fine, but it's worth risk, right? It is, yes. If it doesn't work, you're going to at least learn what doesn't work about it. But what I love personally, what I really, really find excellent, is that step by step, White has the ability to continue the attack. Can you continue the attack? That's the key. So now what White needs to find is how to proceed. I would like you to think a little bit more about it. And while you're thinking about the White best move, I wanted to advise you to take a look at the incredible course that's offered by Grandmaster. I think one of the best grandmasters, in my opinion, of the Sicilian Defense. One of the the best specialists, not just of that opening, but many others. Ultimately, to take a look at, I'm going to send a link on the chat. You can check below the video of of Grandmaster Neidic's method about tournament training, a powerful repertoire, and a lot of secrets that any player, especially from a club, intermediate, or beginner level, can learn and incorporate in their repertoire. Keep in mind, his rating is 2730. So he knows a lot about that. But I think if you want to learn a lot more about how to make such sacrifices or find them in the games, you could see a lot about it. He comments a lot of incredible games and critical moments with the methodology you can follow. And there it is. I'm just sending you a link so you could check it up. So this is basically a great possibility. So you certainly don't want to miss it. Now, one of you asked, okay, hey Valeri, I wanted to ask you, in the Sicilian, white long castles and plays g4 and h4. This is the general plan for white. But what's the plan for black? I don't play Sicilian, that's what I'm asking. Well, here's the idea. When it comes to the plan for black, he's always wanting and looking for a chance to attack on the king's side. So it's like he wants to do it this way. Now, what does white want to do? Well, I mean, given the black wants to advance on the queen's side, white wants to advance on the opposite area. It's always that. So it's just an important thing to keep in mind and follow it as you can. But yeah, again, Grandmaster Neidich covers this in details with a lot of typical positions and ideas. So you don't forget to check. It's a limited, like 50% of his incredible course, many hours of training for an incredible price. I think just for a few hours, and then we'll be gone. So anyway, going back to the position, Caruana just took the pawn on h6, making it simpler. He actually wanted to capture the pawn, not so much for the capture itself, although the capture is good, but he simply wanted to increase the tension by simply keeping everything solid. And now we've got that bishop that is amazing. We've got the fact that in case black captures the bishop, we're going to retake very quickly. And then we have this a possibility to, the step up. Probably you can come up with a move of rook to the g1. And it is wonderful. What I love about a position of that kind is that in most times, you cannot break anything too quickly. But you could, however, think about where your pieces can actually arrange themselves and just go against the opponent. And that was great. That was great. Well, actually, after that move, what happened in the game? Then black played queen e7, hoping to run out. And he kind of did, of course. The idea is just, okay, let's run away. Let's keep everything around. And but then after that move, white plays b5. Now, this was probably the most deep move that I've seen. Now, why is that? Why is this move played in the first place? The reason is very simple. Black was going to take this pawn anyway. And when white plays b5, you understand that after black captures the pawn, you're probably wondering, it's just like, why not let black take it? It closes the rook down. It locks the rook, and it gives white some great opportunities in terms of bishop c5, I think, or even, rook g1. I think there's just so many. Now, I think b5, black played queen e8, perhaps realizing that he cannot exchange on the f5, given that white would play knight takes f5. And he wanted to kind of let white take a6 so that the queen can get more active. In fact, he didn't want to close down his own rook. But that it didn't work, because then white plays knight takes f7. And now you see a pivotal moment where we realize that all that power, all the good pieces that we've built and coordinated, it is not going to remain unnoticed. See, the most important in such kind of position is that you get those pieces and you make them work together so that the longer they keep up, harder it's going to be for the opponent to move out. He played rook takes f7, and I do have to admit that most likely, if he didn't do this move, I mean, he could have played bishop takes to f7. I mean, actually, like that. But if he did play bishop takes f7, white could do a move like rook to h6, king g7, rook to the g1, which is a wonderful move. We could do rook takes g6, and we can do rook h7. And it is a brilliant type of tactic that simply cuts off anything. Well, I can't do it. What I love, man, I really, really love about this position is the connection, the coordination, and the fact that in the end of the day, black is still a queen up. Nobody cares, though, because who would care about the black queen? Look at it. It is perhaps, we would say, the worst placed piece that he's got in this whole position. Who cares about such a piece? Nobody. The truth is that it doesn't matter. Right now, he is already in a lot of trouble. Black's got much to be worried and concerned about this, and yeah, it's just basically, why we're winning. So what happens next move? Interesting. Well, basically, the moment this took place, certainly Black was a little worried, so he actually decided to continue with the move of queen takes to the b5. Smart move, I have to say. The idea being, let's just get the queen out so that maybe it could, after all, do what it has to be, what it has to do. Just get the advances and the tactics and other things in place. It's interesting. Of course, it didn't work, because after queen takes to the b, white plays rook h6 check, and then we are understanding that black loses. King g7, g1, there. You're probably thinking, okay, well, how does white get to win? Well, I mean, we could do rook h8, and of course we could chase him down like this, although he might escape. So, again, white is likely going to get a pretty big advantage with this, but black will probably escape along the way. So the other possibility, of course, is to do it in another way. So rook h7. Rook h7 looks stronger. King f8, and we've got bishop to the h6. If the king comes down to e7, we can tap capture there, taking, and rook d7. I mean, I don't really believe that black could save himself from the attack of all these pieces, but there's obviously more precise ways to do it. Let's see, checking here, takes, maybe capture on the f7 directly, or rook h8 could be a better move, actually. It's rook h8 seems pretty strong here, because then we can have rook takes to the b8, queen takes to the b8, h6 check. Once his king is down, we can do a rook d8, and that instantly wins it. I mean, this is just one of the little opportunities that are available for white. Obviously, that's why black resigned. He realized this was just the end of the end of everything. But what was so incredible was, like, if we really go back to the earliest stage of the game, you could see it wasn't anything too special. It was just white seriously giving his center more space, and above all else, focusing not so much on quick tactics, but on the ability to create circumstances. He creates circumstances by becoming more active, by becoming a little bit stronger with each piece. And so it was so valuable, I have to say. It was really interesting. Every piece felt incredibly well, incredibly strong. And as black kept on playing and advancing or trying to get ready, none of these worked. Most of all, remember this. Whatever it is that you are actually doing, you have to think about the amount of pieces that you've got. If you do not have enough pieces to be introduced into the battle, then your tactics are likely not going to pay off. The reality is that after queen takes f6 and then knight to d5, white was able to dominate in one almost incredibly, I'd say, like, difficult position to lead the attack with, simply because he was much more prepared than black. And that type of preparation, that type of control, just allowed him to stay to get much stronger and stronger and stronger until black's position collapsed. What I want to do is now show you another really interesting game like that, which I think is worth looking at. And this is basically the way what we'll call often cascade of sacrifices in the Sicilian Killer. You may really like this game Because even though it goes against the Sicilian once more time, you will love to see a bit more about how to fight the Sicilian in such a game. So seeing this, basically we start with the Sicilian Knight or variation, one of the most popular. And this time I picked up the move of queen to the e2. Very interesting way to play it. It's different, but at the same time it's quite special. The whole idea is to make sure we have e5 in place. And this is obviously about playing not only e5, we actually are looking for a move for a chance to open up the queen and do a lot of things. This is great. At least as a start, it looks great. What comes out next is super cool. Let me show you. Queen e2. Apparently black played with a move of queen to c7. And then white actually did go directly with the move of long side castle. Now, why are we actually playing just like that? Well, I have to say that, the idea itself is obviously to play alongside the move opponent to the e5, so we definitely want to do this. But it's great. Step by step, we're going to be ready to advance with the e5 when needed, and why not? So, what should black do? Here, I played bishop e7, and then white played g4. Same thing. Same as before. Let's just keep on pushing. Black played h6. Bishop h4. Now, do not give away the bishop pair. That may sound a little strange when I say it, but it's really important that I point that out because to some people that wouldn't be too clear. Exchanging the bishop for a knight in the Sicilian must be done only when there is a great purpose. That means you got to know for sure. I'm doing it for this or this or this, but I'm doing it. Unless you are certain of it, don't do it. That's the rule. Because the bishop is too important. If it basically trades off for the f6, then you're just going to lose the bishop pair and you're going to get nothing for it. You're going to get no abilities, no resources, no tactics, nothing. So we don't need that. We want to preserve the bishop so that we could eventually focus on playing moves at f5 and others that will help in the longer run. That's what it is. And it's nice. So actually, after this was played, black continued with g5. Now, if he doesn't do g5, because you may find that strange. A lot of people will play, but if you, in case you're finding it strange, if he doesn't do it, the moment black castles, we play g5 ourselves. And often that will happen with the rook on g1. So that would mean an incredible attack against the opponent's, whole file there and everything. So he doesn't really want this. That's why he actually plays it this way. It's not that he loves to do it just like that, but it's simply because there's no choice. Black has to make sure he attacks. But let me tell you this. When black plays g5, f takes g, and knight h7, once again, he does the mistake that he did before, that he did earlier. He begins the battle way too early. He begins the fight way too early. One should never start a fight as early as that. And why is that? Because when you start the battle, when you start the attack as early, usually that will affect your position negatively. The idea is that black's actual ideas here are to, well, just challenge the pawn, take the pawn, and do some other stuff. But the reality is that he doesn't have enough. Most important thing in chess in general. Start advancing only when you feel good enough. And what do I mean by good enough? Good enough means good enough. Do you have the necessary amount of forces, like pieces and development, preparation, so that you could engage tactics like this and feel strong about it? If you could, that's great. But if you cannot, then we have a problem. Now, that's why this sequence, I don't feel, was too great for black. White now plays bishop g3, h takes g5, and knight f5. And now we understand. Oh, yes, we do. The reason why this whole thing works so beautifully is again because black really started attacking too early. I have to tell you, I see a lot of players, and many of them don't realize a huge problem in their games. One of the biggest issues of intermediate or beginner players is that they begin the game too early. So I always say focus on the 3 stages. You have development. This means early bringing out of your pieces, upbringing anything that will help you in the longer run. Then we've got the middle game, where basically we start with improvement. We've already developed those pieces where we're not ready yet. We have to make sure that we've got the strength and power. And then finally, we have what I call the attacking possibility, the attacking point, which is actually all about, all right, I'm ready. Let's go. Whatever it is, whatever it has to be, I'm up to do it. See, so you have to understand these 3 judges and follow them as strictly as possible, unless your opponent basically forces a change, like he makes a terrible blunder or a big quick attack without actually developing his own pieces. Even in those cases, you still need to be very careful. But I really recommend that. And so with knight f5, things are really working out great. You're having the extra pressure against the opponent's bishop. We're having the extra tension against the d6. We have a great attack, wonderful possibilities, and a lot of power. Now, is there more to that? Of course. This is how we do it. See, knight f5. Excellent as a position, beautiful as a move. Nothing more. And the reality is that after the move of knight to the f5, black actually has to do e takes f5 in this position. So, obviously this is terrible for him, but he's got to do it. Now, after continuing with the move of, let's say, pawn takes to the f, then actually we realize that black's got to go, white's got to go with the move knight d5. It's a wonderful thing. It's just a great idea because we're having the threat that's coming against the e7. We're getting ready to play with e takes f5 in this position, and we're perfect. More or less, we would like to do as much challenges or as much pressure as it's possible against the opponent. And in that type of position, that's all we need. I love this. And once again, whenever it comes down to you just thinking about how you can really extend your pressure a little bit longer, think about that. Which 2 pieces I can connect or I can coordinate so that they could basically exercise more pressure or tension over my opponent. So again, which 2 or more pieces I can connect or, bring together so that they can exercise more pressure against my opponent. That was great. I mean, the moment we do this, you understand the impossibility for black. He's lost. He doesn't know it yet, but he's lost. Now, once again, Grandmaster Knightage explains a lot about these nuances in terms of the evaluation. So, one of you asked, delayed poison point versus poison point, why would black choose a delayed instead of regular? Less theory? I don't know about theory. Again, we're talking mostly about strategy here. But take a look at the Grandmaster Knightage scores. It explains a lot about the way we should think. Once again, I would really, really encourage you to check it. It's in the link below this video. But it is a beautiful, incredible course, which brings so much value to the different ideas that most chess players don't actually understand, and that's big. So check it out. I'm gonna send it on the chat too, so you might wanna take a look. After e takes f5, basically white played knight b5 now, and now we're seeing the tremendous strength and power of white's pieces. It's not just, oh hey, look at this, white's attacking. It's obviously There's a lot more to that. But what is so beautiful is, just making the activity work. The pressure is there, the challenges are on, and the tactics are working. Now, if you look at black, I don't think you're actually going to see too much going in this case because, for the most part, his own pieces have very little or nothing to do. They're great. Our attack is wonderful, and black is obviously losing it. I find this amazing because, again, this whole idea, about these positions, the whole idea is, can you make your opponent to feel the pressure, to feel the tension and the possibilities? Because truth is, you just cannot hold it. No way. After that last move, apparently black is just kind of losing it. And the more it goes forward, it's just the worst it's going to keep getting. Let's see. This one, basically black continued with his own queen back. And then after he actually played with the move queen to the b8, white plays e takes f5. He gets that line for the queen and the rook. We get that opportunity to exercise more pressure over the opponent, and we have the idea that black is lost. He continues to more or less lose with every single move we do. Knight e5, surely. Of course, the idea is he just wants to keep up, but doesn't matter because the reality is it's going to be the same. Whether he plays it like this or he doesn't, it's the same thing. We just play with knight takes to the e7, which I find was an incredible move. King takes to e7, rook takes to e6. Bang! This move totally tears apart black's whole position. I mean, totally. This move just basically follows an idea that often in order to attack successfully, we need to be thinking about the opponent's main defenders. I mean, yes, there are other things you could think too about, but what this move does, as opposed to any of the others, is that it completely breaks down anything, like literally any piece or possibilities that black's going to use in order to get his game together. That is a perfect move to look for. Strong, devastating, the e5 sagging, and most of black's own pieces just make no difference or no sense as they stand. Actually, right after that, black decided, okay, whatever, I'm going to take with the queen. And obviously white played bishop takes to e5. It's a pretty strong move. It's an incredible idea. We got the queen under attack. We got the rook under a threat too. And it's great. See? There's no opposition. Because opposition is made by pieces. There is no pieces that black is having. The opposition is only possible when some player has the ability to say, okay, I'm going to use those and those pieces in order to deliver different threats. Where are they? Black played, after bishop takes to the e5, actually, black played queen d5, and white even chose to gather his own bishop into the play. Because really, just who cares about anything else? Let's just get that bishop on the line. We challenge and drive away the queen. And this is the end of it. Basically, the end of the whole endeavor. Black cannot defend no more. The queen is the only guardian. It has to move. And then as it moves, taking the a2, white simply continues by playing with the move of bishop d6 check. King takes d, rook d1. It's like just every piece literally jumps and attacks and jumps and attacks and jumps and attacks. And it's just impossible. Like, if you think about it from this perspective, black is already losing. I mean, he could try certain things, I guess, but it's so bad and so difficult that I don't feel like it can even work. After rook to the d1 with a check, he realized that it's going down pretty terribly. But king c7, queen e5 check. But because white takes the initiative, and yes, just to let you know, initiative is not just like a nice possibility to advance forward. And that's what a lot of people think. The initiative is the possibility to create a sequence of forcing moves in a row, like again and again and again and again. We just keep punching and punching and punching and punching him until he can no longer protect himself. That's the idea. So every single move is a punch, 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 punch again, punch again, punch, and that's the thing. Queen v6, queen d4. Of course, going back means checkmate. Gotta go up, and that they pretty much means queen c5 for the check. It is wonderful to do. Most of black's own pieces cannot do anything to help him with the defense, and actually, it's great. It's a fantastic position. Helps out with the attack. Just gives us the chance to think about how bad this looks like for black, and yeah, so why not? Let's just keep going. That was amazing, and pretty much everything else too, but this especially is great. Well, black felt it. Yeah, it's not like he had much else that he could do. He had to try whatever, but obviously. Let me see about this. After continuing with the move of here, then white played queen to the c7. Then what's actually happening is that white can continue with the move. Okay, queen c7 first. Black resigned because then after king a4, there would have been rook to d4 check, pawn to b4, bishop c6 with a checkmate, and that's the end of it. Basically, this is a devastating attack against the black king, who really can't defend. What is so incredibly interesting about this whole game is just it's not. I mean, forget about the idea that white was leading up an incredible attack. It was important. But what really mattered, what really counted for, I mean, starting from the very beginning to the point where it was really impossible for black to defend, what really did matter most was the fact that black started the attack or the counter basically with nothing. He countered with nothing. Now, as black, if you're ever playing this with black, you got to understand that a lot of preparation and necessary development is required so that moves like not just g5, but others could work out. And you have to know that maybe we need to get better. We need to get stronger. So okay, so like actually after continuing with this move, and yeah, black was obviously just too terrible in that position, and yes, so like one of the key things is just holding him back there. The knight f5 simply helped white to get one of the element, which was necessarily open up as many lines as possible. That was very needed. Of course, we need that. And then besides that, the other point that worked out so beautifully, so brilliantly, was the idea that white actually got the chance to open up the lines. He attacks, bishop takes d5. It's like an incredible resource for each piece to really transform and attack. It was good. It was consistent, and it worked out like a charm. That was it. I really love this example. So I mean, starting from every single point in time that white made it, it was great. And I want to show you one more shorter example about an incredible, tactical sequence in the Sicilian that you can learn a great deal from. Not just about the Sicilian in particular, but also a lot about the different principles that come with it. And just give me 1 second. I think this is the game that I wanted to actually talk about. Yes, and this was played between Maxim Vachier-Lagrave and Anish Giri in a Norway Chess Open tournament. I mean, closed tournament, Top Grandmaster 2016. So Giri played the Sicilian, and now we're going to look at it from the black side. After all, we don't want to just have one-sided lecture. It's interesting because black picked up to play with queen to the b6. Pretty straightforward. That's, the main idea is clear here. You're countering him. And then after the move of queen to the b6 as it was, white played a3, bishop e7. Now, we've seen this type of idea, and we know that it worked out pretty well for white. So why is black keeping that up? Why do you play like this? Well, basically after queen f3, black played knight at the d7, long side castles, and b5. So what you see is that if you can keep a rather constrained yet solid position with each of your pieces, one of the things that will often take place is that you would be able, or you would love, to actually take control and focus your attention on, development. Like, what comes in this case is that black plays g5. He does that type of move. But then after the move of pawn up to the g5, when white plays h4, g takes f, continues with rook g8. See, in here, as opposed to some of the other variations, black picks up a lot more aggressive approach. Now, when you're playing this with black, you have to understand that nothing's going to work unless you try to be as active as possible. Activity is essential. In that aspect, the key thing is that after rook to the g8, rook to g1, and then the move of d5, we actually even realize that black is able to do this much stronger than anything else. This is a very interesting activity. By playing this move, we have this opportunity to advance, and then we have this shot possibly against the opponent. Bishop b7. Then there's the move of knight of the c5, and it works quite great. So, okay, actually, one of the things is that after d5, white plays e6. And we just talked about that one should never open up the position or engage in such fight when he's behind in development. So black seems to be doing exactly this right now. It didn't work with the previous game, so why is it supposed to work now? The reason is because in this particular case, black has a tremendous follow-up. He doesn't do it just for the fact that he wants to start advancing, but he does it because he's got a lot of pieces that are waiting to jump out and spur out of the passive positions into something much more dangerous. And of course, after that move, what comes out in this position, that obviously white's got to go back, but it doesn't seem to be working, because if he comes back like he does with queen to the h3, black plays e6 to the d. He is simply, going with the idea of pinning. It works. It's actually quite nice. See, this type of opening that comes out in here isn't just like a nice idea, let's do it, and it's fine. It's like, okay, we're doing it, but we're also doing it greatly. We're getting what is most required, what is most necessary, so that the different type of tactics work out. And so it works. Now, basically, after that type of a move, of course, black play with the move king to the f8. White jumps in with this type of a move in this position. But, we just we realize that, he's in a bit of trouble, actually. Why am I saying that? Well, because he is. We could see that, it's not just the fact that white's a little back or off, but that we're actually seeing bishop takes f5, g takes f5, and then there's bishop to the c5 in this case. So this is quite good. And so that's really, really dangerous out there. And so, very important. Great possibilities and wonderful ideas. Okay, so after continuing with this bishop to the c5, white plays queen to the f1. What's going on right now? Well, after that, surely we understand that black has already gotten the activity, which is pretty amazing, I have to say. And then we're just continuing. d4. That's the key now. Getting the activity in place so that every single move counts. Step by step by step. It's perfect. And So interestingly enough, after the move of d4, when white comes back, black plays knight e4. Look at that. It's an incredible activity which continues to be powerful and work even as black sacrifices the rook in order to play knight d3 check. Of course, white couldn't take it due to the simple bishop takes a3, bishop b4, and the king is going to be checkmated almost in the next moves. We take, or bishop takes c3, queen takes to c3, knight takes d. It's great. So you moved, knight takes c1, takes e3. I mean, I'm really impressed by how everything turned out for black, but you could actually realize that this was very natural. When you've got the right setup, these moves are very easy. They just come out and you make them and you're great. Queen takes e1, bishop e3 check. And white simply just gave up. There was nothing he could do. King is in trouble. Our pieces are perfect. And then there's so much more we can do, like queen to the b, queen to d6, and king going out and the rook stepping in. It's just, wow. I love this game. And what I really love, too, is to see how, as opposed to the previous game, there is a very significant difference. So it was beautiful, it was effective, and it worked just brilliantly. So these were my thoughts about some of the key Sicilian concepts and certain things that you've got to remember and keep in mind whenever you have and you want to play those positions. Don't forget to check Grandmaster Knighted's brilliant course. It's only available for 10 hours now, and you might actually want to check this out quickly before the offer expires. But thank you so much, and I'll speak to you next Saturday, same time.